right? And what Brian would say is based on balance volume on this low date, the probability is that it was a low risk entry and it was going to bounce. And what the Keltner band would say is in the history of Amazon, it has never dropped below 3 delta and not bounced.
Right.
And so when you see these extremes, are you going to pull the trigger or not?
That's exactly right. Well, you've taken all the risk out of the entry at that point.
But your brain doesn't want to believe that.
No.
Because it keeps on saying, it's going to fall, it's going to fall, it's going to fall.
That's right.
And everybody else is saying, it's going to fall. It washes them all out. And it's only those people that recognize the probability of the bounce is going to happen. It's so high that they pull the trigger. And that's what we're trying to learn.
Well,
right?
Not what you're trying to learn. You're learning it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but I think Brian would say, well, look at, man, your on-balance volume is washed out at that low point.
Yes, he will.
You're not going to see much chance of it washing out much lower. I would confirm it by saying, look at, guys, in the history of the Amazon chart, every time it hits 3 delta down in terms of a Keltner band, and that's the wrong term to use, I think we would probably say in a historical chart, the delta, with maybe 4 or 5 or 6 deltas, it would never has not bounced when it's gotten there. And that's when you say, well, I'm going to take the risk and pull the trigger. And that's what Brian's developing as a tool, and I'm trying to get onto a chart where I can see, hey guys, we're 3 delta down, and I can actually run scans for the group and show you every stock that is 3 Keltner bands down, 4 Keltner bands down. It can be 50
and your brain, your platform, market maker platform will verify it, will it not?
Yeah, I think you would have to verify it because I can't really tell like you can whether if you go and look at the Amazon chart or any chart and you just plotted the moving average of delta, 1 delta.
Well, that's what we do.
I think you do it in your brain. I mean, you know how to do it. But I say to the rest of the MMT people, okay, what are we going to do to kind of let us know what the thing is? And Brian's developed the tool for us, and I'm trying to come up with, if we could get Qua or somebody to address, what would be the moving average of the high.
Well, we can do that. We already know what to plug in it. We're going to do it.
Yeah, and you could see that on the MMT chart, on a daily chart.
Sure.
And you guys always go back and look at your dailies and say, well, we're above half bar, below half bar.
That's right.
The hourly or the 30-minute. But when you have the Keltner band moving in real time on the AOS, and you see, for instance, on an intraday, you say, well, it just fell 2 bars below the Keltner band, then you kind of start asking yourself, well, is this a turn point? But if you had that on the MMT chart and you saw that where your teeny line was relative to the moving delta line, you would get a pretty good idea whether it's going to bounce.
Yes, it does, and it always gives it at the most negative ratios. It's going to bounce and pop up. I can say that Amazon's putting it on bottom here, and I could say that on Tuesday that Amazon has this one bottom back over here that was put in on 12/29, as you said. That was a great bottom at 166, and that was the time to be long. And this is how these extreme lower levels are viable to sell for a profit and then short back down to their support levels. And yes, our system has all of these things plotted into it. It's because it's done mathematically, and Amazon's going to have support at 170.76. That's half of this bar that went up to 184. That's going to be your support level now, and that's the lower level. And you can see in here with even the gaps that where these wicks are bouncing, because what you see here is where you hit this teeny line right here, bam, right to the penny. And I said, bam, right off of that bottom, right back up to where the body of the lower price is, right dead to that teeny line, our MMT platform, right to the penny, and that was it. And it wasn't going no higher. And it, just by the way, these are going to be the same teeny lines it trades in on Tuesday. So
Yeah.
you know.
Well, what I would say right now, if you put a
And
bid
these
out
are
at
half
once,
delta, $1.87 per line.
yeah,
$1
if you,
and here,
yeah,
1.87
yeah,
calculated.
if you put a bid out at 164.13, you would be at the three Keltner
All
down
right.
band. And I
So
don't know if Brian put in the price 164.13
we'll have him
where he
plug it
would
in right
be,
now.
and then where would that be in the on balance volume, thing, right?
Okay.
So if you got, like for instance on 12:15, I think you had a massive wick down, right?
Well, let me go over there on 12:15.
Yeah, 12:13, you had this massive.
Here's 12:13. That's I was a buyer
That
there, buddy.
yeah,
One,
see
two,
that wick.
right to the penny.
Yeah, but what I would say to you,
Bam.
that is actually, that price was three Keltner bands down.
Isn't that
Okay,
amazing how I
and
have it
so
priced
right
in? The
now,
platform, so you verify the platform's accuracy, don't you?
well, yeah, but what I'm saying is that this all along that lower three Keltner band, if you just said, okay, 164.13 is a high probability of putting a bid out, and that the Keltner band changes every day.
Yep.
But that there's enough volatility in Amazon that that it can go down there and hit you. If you get hit, you're like guaranteed money.
You're guaranteed money. You're right. When it
you know,
goes down there and hits you, and let me go ahead and conclude this live video, and we'll come back to it. And yes, on balance volume, the magical thing, is that all of those indicators were once written, but this platform is already plotted at any point, and then the engagement between the buyer and the seller, and which way it's going to go from there. And we can see where, like you said, we're buying the lows and selling the highs, and we're selling the highs and buying back the lows, and we're buying the lows and selling into the highs, and selling the highs and buying back in those lows within it. And this is a daily level. On the 3-minute level that I have of Amazon, which I'm going to put back up here, is that in a shorter time frame, is that you can see where the turns start. And
yeah,
you can see where these lines do not lie in this platform on this intraday level. And every day, and it went down mathematically straight to the bottom, and it went right mathematically right back to the top. The major turns with the least amount of risk reward ratio is that the bear stayed too long. When that short cover interest started to cover, you started to see these big expansions, and all of your other things that you've discussed in here were turning and verifying it at these
yeah.
bottoms.
So I just put up the Google chart, and on the, when you were saying, it's extremely overbought, it's going to turn around,
It did
It
right here.
turns out that on the like that day in the first of the year, that was exactly 3 Keltner bands up. And then the low of October was 3 Keltner bands down. Okay, and the peak in October was 3 Keltner bands up.
And
So
that's on a
every time,
daily?
yeah, on a daily, on every time well, like the one in December, the turnaround in November was actually 2 Keltner bands down. But it tends that in August we hit 3 Keltner bands down. In October we hit 3 Keltner bands down. In the peak in October was 3 Keltner bands up. And So you can kind of say to yourself, it would say right now, put a bid out, you know, on Google at 590.2.
All right.
That's 3 Keltner bands down. And
And you
if
would
you
have
got
got
hit
hit and
there,
ripped.
you got hit ripped. Now I don't know if it's going to get there, but you know, as these things unfold, you can look at your Keltner band and say, well, I can just approximate. But I don't think we want to do that. I think you actually want to get somebody to be able to plot the moving average of 1 delta, the moving average of 2 delta, 3 delta, 4 delta, and then you can choose like your stock and say do a daily on it, and you can project those moving delta lines out and just say, hey, you know, I'm just going to line the bid all the way out at this price, and you know, if it gets volatile and I get hit, I'm going up.
Right. And do you find it amazing how I had called the bottom on it, and then say that we would go to 670, and we went right to 670 and reversed and came
Well, what
all
I
the way
think
down here
is,
to 616? Now, let me tell you,
I
did
yeah, I
I?
do, but what I would say, what's more amazing is you always go, hey, you know, I'm just talking. I want you to go look at
Right.
the brain.
Right.
You know, and that you know the brain well enough, but you know, it's almost like
Shorted
you
it
know,
right here with you,
yeah. Well,
all the way down. Washed it.
well,
Look at that.
I think what the deal is that, as you say, you are gaining confidence in Brian's math, right? And that
Mhm.
you're confident enough in
Well, what
Brian's
I'm
math.
confident in is that everything that he's been taught, that he's putting it into applicable use, and he can see, and he's done extremely well. That's the good thing about MMTs that go through this long journey of life involvement with markets. When they are taught in the best way and they put it to applicable use, that is what I trust. Does that clarify it as far as my trust level and trusting the numbers?
But you're going to let them short based on information on balance volume,
That's
right?
exactly right.
That's exactly right, and
I don't
that's
need to look at nothing else.
yeah, yeah, and you're getting trust in that. Now, for the MNTs, what I would say is if you go
I will
to
do it every time.
if you can't do this on AOS. I'm sorry to tell you,
Well,
but
you
they don't
can't.
allow you to mess with the Keltner bands the way you need to. But if you go set on a typical charting platform, the Keltner would be 20, 3.0, 10,
Okay.
and then do 20, 2.0, 10,
Okay.
and that would be the upper moving, the 20 represents the moving average of the high low probably close divided by 3, because you can't get, except for on incredible charts, and you can get a 3, you can get a month, you can get a trial on it for free for like
Okay.
30 days,
Well, we'll do
and you
that.
go in there and set,
We'll do
you
that.
know, so I'll put the link in
Hmm.
for people, and because you can actually mess with the original Keltner and then the modified Keltner, which would be the divide by 3, and you can set them at 20, 3.0, 10, and you can see on these charts that you know, math probability says you get above that 3.0 delta range, and I would prefer not to use anything but the MMT platform, but I think, you know, we're going to have to decide the value of
When your Keltner
plotting
band
the
is going to
Keltner.
change, when your Keltner band is going to change, you're going to be at 100% IR. You're going to be at the ratio peak of the day, no matter what, at the higher valuations, and
Right.
that's going to be these things in here. That's going to be this bid and ask ratio is going to confirm it. It will peak and it will turn before it does. Then your
But
secondary
what you don't
indicator.
know, but
Huh?
what you don't know, Mario, is where are you relative to the moving delta band?
Well,
That
that's
if you have a moving delta band that would be a 20-day or 10-day a delta band or whatever you want. I don't know what you would want to do,
You
but
got to
I would
go
argue
five
that
period, a
if
10-day
you knew
period.
that your intraday range was at a 3.0 delta
Right.
band, you would say,
Buy the
"Hey, look,
farm.
it's too high. I'm shorting."
Right.
On your intraday range, because where are you in your intraday range relative to your delta,
Right.
right? And because the intraday range early on could be 100% and you never move more than 2 points. But if you're 3 delta up and that's your 100%, then you would say, hey, it ain't going to last.
Right. So I'm going to
Yeah,
conclude
and
this.
actually, I think you would say, "Hey, I'll allow you to do an overnight on Google
I would.
short," and so I would argue that if you could get the plot of Brian's on balance volume matched up with your with your delta, you would see that when those delta and on balance volume converge, you ain't got no choice.
That's right.
Brian, am I talking bull, or are you hearing?
No, you're absolutely right. When they converge and they show up at the same time, you're going to see that the stock's just going to stop going down after all that volume's washed out.
Yeah, and that it can't wash out in a volatility anymore.
No.
So I just think that we're trying to develop the tools. Let me put the link in. I'm going to put the link for the Incredible Chart free trial in Skype here, and you guys can start messing with these volatility type of things and see how a lot of you have a lot more experience with. Let me put it this way: the platform, the MMT platform, and delta expansion and contraction, and I got to get, it'll take me a few minutes to do that, but I'll tell you when I get it done,
Okay,
okay?
I will conclude this one here for now. And once again, this is an MMT live workshop happening here on 1/14/2012, comparing standard technical analysis with the Market Maker platform. But the Market Maker platform is so accurate, and it verifies all of these other things before the fact, not after the fact. The entry and the exits and the stop management and the things that we do here, this is how we spend our time together on these topic subjects. And we cover many things, and we'll visit this throughout the morning.